Aloha and welcome to another Thursday episode of the Hawaii Food and Farmer Series. I'm your co-host, Justine Spiritu. This is my lovely sidekick, Matthew Johnson. We are here every Thursday to interview farmers and other individuals and organizations that are a part of our local food system to get their history and story and find out why they love what they do and see what they kind of envision for the future of local food and ag in Hawaii. Today we have a special guest that is near and dear to my heart. This is Ted Nakamura with Kawailoa Farm.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Ted, thanks for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, so Ted, you're kind of unique in the sense, I mean, you've been farming for a while, and I think you kind of have had a unique path that brought you into farming, especially looking at how we're trying to generate interest in farming for the next generation of farmers. So I want to start with kind of that history of how you got interested in farming and got your own kind of training.
Well, I was involved with some community efforts to preserve agricultural land and also Save Our Surf organization. And so I knew about the farmers sometimes facing eviction and the loss of our agricultural land. So I knew about farming. I didn't really think I'd be a farmer until I made a garden, and from there I eventually worked for a farmer for a year every day, and that was pretty much my training. And after that it was like I wanted to do my own thing because of the freedom. I found myself pushing myself really hard for the people I worked for because they were paying me and they were good people, and I wanted to do my very best for them. But there was that pressure, and I felt like, I want to do work for myself so that I don't feel this pressure all the time. And so that's what I did eventually. After a year of working every day for them, I went on my own. And I'm so glad and I feel fortunate to have worked with them because I learned so much about what hard work was. And even though they were conventional farmers, there are things that conventional farmers or organic farmers, they do the same things because it just makes sense. It's logical. Yeah. So there was a lot of, it was excellent time to learn. And
then to backtrack a little bit, what age were you when this interest did kind of spring up?
I think I was about 30 years old.
30?
Yes.
Okay.
So it was pretty late. I didn't know what to do with my life. And part of it was, I think, a renewed faith in God that put love in my heart, and seeing the beauty of this earth and creation. In short, aloha aina. And of that love was making a garden and seeing the beauty and feeling like, this is what I want to do. I want to go work on a farm and see if I can be a farmer.
Yeah.
And so that kind of progressed into, I'm finding now, in the last few years, that I see myself more as a developer of farms. Mm-hmm. I like making new farms and trying to find people to carry on. I like I feel like I'm creating something beautiful. And the problem was not, I don't know if it's really a problem, but what I find is that when I create a new farm, I get attached. And I have been having trouble finding the right people to carry on. So I'm spread very thin. But I feel confident things will fall in place. And I think they already are.
And so that's interesting you talk about that, because Justine, you've worked with Ted. I mean, I was joking before, like when you call Ted's phone, like you're the answering machine. So yeah, talk a little bit. We're gonna interview you now.
Yeah, I mean that's
things have flipped. So talk about what have you guys? You mentioned a couple times to me, but what?
Yeah,
what have
so
you been
we
doing?
met when I was working at Down to Earth, and you were that's always been one of your markets for a long time.
Yes.
And I think we just struck up a conversation because that's when I was in grad school or undergrad, and I said I was kind of interested in agriculture and farming, and you always had your door open in terms of, well, why don't you come and volunteer, or like spend a day out there? And what I've kind of seen, it's almost, you've kind of started this unofficial kind of apprenticeship program. You've always been open to having folks come on, which is interesting because I think nowadays we see farms where the whole idea of volunteering has to be a very structured thing because with their schedule and whatnot, which is surprising since you are working the farm on your own. That you have always been open to making that time to just expose someone to what that lifestyle is. And I think working with you and being out on your farm, outdoors, and that connection you kind of talked about with farming and nature and just the whole kind of cycle of everything is what kind of ingrained a kind of a passion for farming as well. I just thought it was the most like genuine pursuit you could be doing. And it was great to see it that way, and it's interesting to see. Then I thought everyone had that perspective. I've been surprised when people are like, I want to be like people that go into it that it's a business, like the business approach to it, which also makes sense. Or talking to our other guests, it's interesting. There are still family farms that like Ho Farm that's been passed on to, or folks that kind of inherited that as their job. The folks at Kahumana and Ho Farms. And other than that, I mean, even Dean, Okamoto, and Terry, it seems like. And I think you're kind of, where you came at it is similar to, I think, a lot of people in this the younger generation that is kind of becoming interested maybe from more like political or the sustainability idea. And then since it's not something inherited, they have to kind of seek their own training. And so, the work you did, how did you even connect with that farm on Kauai to get that?
It's been a while, but
Did you just call them up and say?
One of my friends.
Did you just fly over?
A couple of my friends. One of my friends was working for them, and so when I first got to Kauai, I just dug up the yard in the house we were renting. I made a huge garden, and that's all I did, just work in the garden every day. And then after a while, I was like, okay. I need to make some money, and maybe I'd like to try being a full-time farmer. So I went to work for the farm that one of my roommates is working for. And like I said, I ended up staying for a year every day, worked every day.
And you didn't surf, right? Because you've always been a surfer, and you said you went, and so you just really committed to every day.
It was like a new love.
Dedicated.
It was like, I'd rather be doing this than go surfing. And that's one of the reasons I moved to Kauai was go surfing, but I found something that I had more passion for.
Wow.
And so it's always been that way even now. It's like I'm torn. So I try to do both, but I got hurt a couple years ago, so I couldn't surf. So for 2 years, during that 2 years, I made a second farm in Punaluu, and I started a third farm on the North Shore. And Punalulu is up and going, and the one on the North Shore is close. And there's a fourth place that I have my hands involved with. Hopefully, I just, that's just, I feel like that's what I've been called to do. I follow my heart, and that's what I feel like I want to do, because I feel like organic farming needs to grow, and that's about pretty much.
It almost sounds like it could be a good connection too, like, talking before about like the Go Farm program and these other incubator type programs. It seems like this is the same style that you have, but not as formal, when you're also looking to bring on, more people to help. So maybe there could even be like some kind of a connection with because I know some friends coming out of the Go Farm program, now they're like, oh, now what?
Yeah, either looking for land or
Yeah.
looking, because yeah, going through Go Farm, I think they're working on the stages. Once you're complete with school, the schooling, the jump to starting your own business is still kind of a large jump. So I mean, they have their incubator program where you have a small space on their campus, and or they could go pursue their own thing. So it's great to connect them with folks that are, still, the idea of still like an apprenticeship, I think is a good idea to incorporate.
Yeah, I think if they really, really want it, they'll find land somewhere. But I think people in the community, the landlords, landowners, and people are to make these lands available and help out.
Do you see that there's been any progression on that with is the Mahiai matchup a good example of a collaboration that's making land more accessible?
Yes, I think that was a good step. I'm familiar with the past two Mahiai winners. There's going to be a third contest.
Yeah.
And
so just to clarify, the Mahiai matchup is the program through Kamehameha Schools?
Yes. And I would like to see more of that. Maybe it doesn't really have to be a contest type thing, but I think maybe, I don't know exactly how Go Farms operates and if there is, how soon they're talking to landlords about farming after they graduate. I don't know how far along that part is.
It's definitely while we're in class, I mean, they let folks know, like, hey, this random person has land available, or we've had the Kea, I think, the guy who was managing Punaluu, he came and talked to our class.
Oh, okay.
And it's definitely, yeah, I mean, they definitely put that on your mind, and there's always the opportunity to go pursue it, even before you graduate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if that's the case, then what is holding people back from taking advantage of these opportunities? And so I think sometimes people are afraid because of the economics of it all. So that's why I still feel I've said this before, that the landlords need to let the farmer live on his land. And they need to let the workers live on the land without sneaking around and feeling like if they do, they'll get kicked off. And just openly, if they want to see the farmer succeed, it's important for the farmer and the workers to be able to live on the land to take the economic pressure off. I mean, if our leaders and if the people of Hawaii want more local production, more local food,
just making a more viable occupation.
Yes, and let's see what happens. How many people will take up the challenge of creating their farm and going full time? And if not, well, does that answer the question? Or my thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's a really important point, is the living on the land. And there's been misuse of that before in the past, where people get onto ag land and then put up a large house and whatnot.
Yeah.
But let's definitely talk more about that after we come back from the break.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
Aloha, my name is Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm the host of Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. We air live on the internet and also on Oceanic Channel 16. I'd invite you to come for a fresh new show every Tuesday from 12 to 1 o'clock. I try to bring on guests that give us a different viewpoint on aspects of sustainability in Hawaii, as well as trying to unpack some of the difficult concepts of measuring and achieving sustainability, particularly with regard to sustainable economic growth and prosperity in Hawaii. Please join us every Tuesday from 12 to 1 p.m. Mahalo, aloha.
Aloha, this is Maria Mera, and I'm here to invite you to my bilingual show, Viva Hawaii on Think Tech Hawaii, every other Monday at 3 p.m. We're here to inform, motivate, and entertain you. Join us. Hola, soy María Mera y estoy aquí para invitaros a mi show bilingüe Viva Hawaii en Think Tech Hawaii cada 2 lunes a las 3 de la tarde. Estamos aquí para informaros, motivaros y entreteneros. Apuntaros.
Aloha and welcome back to the Hawaii Food and Farmer Series. I'm your co-host Justine Espiritu.
And I'm your co-host, Matt Johnson. And so we are back here talking to our good friend, Ted Nakamura from Kawailoa Farms.
Yes.
So yeah, we're just getting the conversation started and we're talking about, apprenticeship is kind of like the style that you started getting into farming and now you're giving back to other people or you want to give back to other aspiring farmers as well. And so we're kind of talking about, they have these incubator programs training new farms. And it was interesting, you said that you feel if somebody really wants to get on the land and start farming, that it's possible, they should be able to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say I wanted to go and I was like, Ted, I really want to start farming. What direction would you put me into actually getting on some land on Oahu?
I would have you contact the landowners, the landlords, and talk to other farmers, find the location you want to farm, talk to other farmers, ask them, how did you get your land? And if you see a vacant piece of land, you said, whose land is that?
Just
Go
claim
to
it.
the-
Just don't put a stake in it.
Stick on there, yeah.
And
Start
see if anyone
farming.
kicks you off.
Guerrilla
See
farming.
what happens.
Well, even in that sense, okay, you say ask the landowner. Now that I'm thinking about it, the only time I have heard about land is this kind of like online network of people emailing me saying, hey, contact this person. Or actually, there's 2 interesting points with that. Like, I wouldn't know if I saw land if it was KS or if it was the state. How would you distinguish that?
I think you can go down to the tax key office, and they can help you with maps and the tax key. And when you find the tax key, you can look up the tax key and you find out who the landlord is.
I think
Okay.
you
So
have
that's
it
one way.
online as well where you can
Yeah.
search, I believe.
Yeah, that's one way.
And then because soils are different in different areas on the island, would you suggest deciding what you want to grow first and then finding the right place for it, or finding the right place that then you would choose what you want to grow there and making sure that aligns?
I think you would have to take everything into consideration, like, how much is where is the land, how much do they want per year or per month,
Yeah.
what the terrain is like, what the rainfall is like. The access of water is very important.
Yeah.
You need to find out if you have a reliable access
Slope as
to water,
well. Yeah.
slope. So all these factors, and then you kind of like, okay, weed it out, which one's the best option for you, and sometimes there is no option, and if you really want to farm, okay, I'll go for it, and maybe something better will come up later, or, oh, it's not so bad, it's not perfect, but I can raise things here,
And I've had, when we talk about farmers being able to live on the land or own it, and the abuse that has happened in the past with like what they call, is that like the gentleman estates? I've heard of some people arguing of, rather than trying to change that, why don't you like collaborate with that? If these people that just want to have, they don't want to live in the suburbs, they want this land, and I think we've kind of had that in some networks where we get kind of this unofficial, like, hey, these folks have ag land, they just want to live in it, but they want someone to farm it. Is that a good solution, or does that create another kind of subordinate position to farmers that are kind of subordinate to a landowner? Because then is that like room for abuse of farmers there, or would that sound like, should we be?
Well, I guess it would be hard to generalize and bunch everybody and stereotype everybody into one group. So I think if a landlord owns land and they don't want to farm and they want somebody to farm it, I think it would be, it's a matter of trust, I guess, and I guess as a farmer, you would, I guess that you can always get something on paper,
Yeah.
or you could just trust the person and, you know, and see what happens. I think landlords maybe are afraid of people taking advantage of you know, landlord lets them live on the land and they're not farming and they're just taking advantage of a
Right.
cheap place to live.
Yeah.
So I've been thinking like, well, what if you let the farmers police themselves? So take that pressure off the landlords and let the farmers organize and make sure that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do.
If you kind of have a collective of farmers. on the
Yes,
land.
rather than putting that onus on the landlord where they
Yeah.
have to, you know, evict people and all of that. Why
Yeah.
don't you let the farmers screen each other and police each other and make sure, okay guys, we don't want to mess this up. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah.
We want serious people in here who are going to follow the rules, you know, and so forth and so forth. And so maybe, because I think the landlords are afraid of confrontation and eviction and all of that
Oh, yeah.
would bring, you know, so.
So we want communes. We are.
A community of farmers.
So this sounds kind of similar to a past guest we had, Wayne Gosawara. I don't know if you've ever met him before, at the Mililani Ag Park. So he was in a situation where he was trying to lease 50 acres of land, and he was talking to Castle and Cook, and they said the minimum they could do is 500 acres, obviously.
Okay.
A big difference. And so then, kind of like what you were saying, he then decided to kind of take over the management of that property, but create an ag park out of it. And so him as a farmer is now in the role of managing that property and also, you know, setting up and bringing in new farmers, putting in the irrigation system and all the other parts that, you know, pieces that a farm would need.
Okay.
So, I mean, almost kind of sounds like similar to what you're talking about is
Yeah.
maybe needed more.
Yes, I'm not too familiar with that area and that
Mhm.
project, but it sounds like a logical thing to do. And yes, I would like to see more of that, especially on the North Shore, and throughout the island. Yeah.
Maybe you can pitch that to the Mahiai matchup competition.
That'd be a great pitch. Instead of just having,
Oh,
instead of just having,
Let's do the application right
instead of
now.
doing one farm at a time, setting a larger piece of area.
Yeah.
And then instead of, obviously, Kamehameha schools or the large landlords don't want to deal with all these small leases. So if they just have one lease,
Yes.
and then there's someone who, you know, is able to manage it or understands what needs to be done, like
Okay.
someone like Ted, not to get you a job or anything, but
I mean, you don't have 3 farms. Let's just create another
Yeah.
job for you.
but you know that, I mean, that could be a great proposal, and I would imagine a group like Kamehameha Schools would be interested in something like that.
Yes, actually, there is something in the works. Working with some people, and we've been talking about it for a while.
Okay.
We want to create a ulu cooperative,
Oh wow.
breadfruit,
Yeah.
along with a processing center
Mhm.
to make flour or whatever byproducts. And so I think when you plant something like ulu, you can ask or look for larger pieces of land.
Yeah.
And so that's the direction we want to go as a group. And to try to really make a difference on Oahu and try to make a whole new economy
Mhm.
based on agricultural products like ulu.
Yeah.
And I think existing farmers, if they had a acreage of ulu on the side, it would be protection for them, another source of income. And so this cooperative would be open to all the farmers on Oahu. But to get a large piece of land, 500 acres, 1,000
Oh, wow.
acres, that's the vision.
Okay.
And I'm glad to share that
Yeah.
because I want to see it happen, and I think it can happen. And of course, we want to go organic.
So with 500 to 1,000 acres, that would be a large number or small number of farms that are on that piece of land, and they just have to dedicate a certain percentage or piece of their farm?
Well, I don't know exactly how it would work. That would be up to the cooperative to sit down and discuss these kind of things.
Yes.
But I think it would be an it's an agricultural park, and with a business plan, which is primarily ulu.
Yeah.
And if a farmer wants to raise vegetables while the ulu is growing, I say why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and if he doesn't, and because he's farming other places and he
Right.
has vegetables and he's too busy, at least there's ulu growing
Yeah.
on that land, and it's going to bear fruit in 5 years or whatever. And I think the potential is great for the products from the ulu. I think, well, we're talking like, one person said restaurants would be interested in it if it was partially prepared already. And even homeowners, you know,
The ulu itself.
yes, chopped up when partially cooked or whatever.
Because
you
part
know.
of the problem with the ulu, is that it turns so quickly, it has such a short shelf life.
Yes,
After you
I
pick it.
would think so. And then, you know, everybody's busy rushing around.
Yeah.
So if it's like semi-prepared, it makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
And then people who don't like ulu, if we mill it, because the mill is part of the vision.
Mm-hmm.
If you mill it and make flour and all the byproducts of that. So I think the potential is great to create a whole new economy on the North Shore,
Yeah.
and to give the landlords option as to who they want on their lands,
Yeah.
and who do they want using their water,
Yeah.
you know. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We only have a couple minutes left in this segment, but one of the things I really want to talk to you about is organic.
Okay.
So that's something you mentioned a few times already, that you're using organic practices, and you also mentioned before too, and we've had this conversation on the show about certification of being organic.
Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about why you're organic, and we may have to wait to the third segment to finish it, but
Okay.
we'll get started.
Okay.
Or maybe we'll just go right to the break. I haven't made up my mind yet.
Okay. My understanding is that for stores to say that something is organic, you need to be certified organic.
So it's like USDA certification.
Yes. So on the North Shore, for the past 14, 15 years, I was certified organic. And then this past year, because I was spread so thin, making these new farms, and partly because I just, you know, strategy-wise, I made some mistakes maybe. So I was short on money, so I had to, you know, suspend or withdraw. I can go back when I want, as long as I pay what they want. But so that was my main reason but I'm still practicing everything certified organic. I only use OMRI certified materials. OMRI, for those who are wondering, is Organic Material Research Institute. And if you look on the label of any fertilizer, additive, or whatever you use on the farm, and if it has OMRI on it, you're okay.
So it's a certified organic product that you can use.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when an inspector comes, they ask, well, what did you do for this? What did you do for that? And you show them what you use. As long as it has OMRI on it, you're okay. So I still farm that way, and that's never going to change.
I think that's one of the things I like to state, like, people they get confused about organic. Like, you're still using fertilizers and you're still using pesticides. You're just using products that are typically not going to be petroleum-based and that have a more natural ingredient basis.
Yes, they're not toxic to the, properly used, they're not toxic to, you know, humans and the water, the soil, birds, and, you know, but they do still kill even good things. So, personally, I don't even use OMRI-approved pesticides.
Oh, wow.
That seems like another degree of like a certification or something, or
We're gonna have to get more into that for sure.
Yeah.
But I can see how if there ever is a 500-acre certified organic farm, they would have to get onto some sort of schedule where they are using these types of sprays.
Yep.
I don't think it's ever been done here in Hawaii, and I think, I'm wondering like, how come? And I'm like, well, how come nobody's stepping up to try? And sometimes I think, if I find the right working partners, let's try it. Let's try to do carrots, for example. Because if you do a large-scale organic carrot, you're not hurting other small farmers, organic farmers on the island, but you're just tapping into the market that's primarily from outside.
Cool. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're going to take another quick break and come
Okay.
right back. Thanks.
Okay.
Aloha, namaskar, and hello. I am Anu Hittel, and I host a show on climate change. It's called Climate Change Beyond Outrage, and in it, we go beyond outrage to look at solutions to global climate problems facing people, nations, and the world. Join me every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Hawaii Standard Time. Aloha, namaskar, and goodbye.
Aloha, welcome to Think Tech Hawaii. My name is Josh Green. I'm the host of a program called Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm a physician. I work in the emergency department on the Big Island. I also serve in the state senate, which, please don't hold that against me, doesn't detract from my television program. We speak about all the big healthcare issues in the state. We get together on Tuesdays from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we try to talk about the most important issues in healthcare. This is a terrific venue for people to learn about healthcare. There are many programs on this station. We broadcast it later, not just on the internet, but also on OC16. Thanks for joining us. Please be informed healthcare consumers.
Aloha, I'm Kauai Lucas, host of Hawaii is My Mainland, here on Think Tech Hawaii every Friday at 3 p.m. We address issues of importance for those of us who live here on the most isolated landmass on the planet. Please come join me Fridays at 3 p.m. Mahalo.
Aloha, you are tuning into the Hawaii Food and Farmer Series. I'm your host, Justine Spiritu. We have Matthew Johnson, who is my co-host, and today's guest is Ted Nakamura, CEO of Kawailoa Organic Farm. So we were kind of just getting into what you are sort of envisioning of what the future of Hawaii food and ag could kind of look like. And I'm always kind of impressed with where you're at and kind of the big dreams and things you're trying to tackle or thinking of taking on when I kind of compare to when you were a little more isolated and just focusing on your own thing and kind of hesitant to like, well, I don't know if I want to talk to this person, but I mean, you've just totally, I think you're one of the largest advocates for collaboration and kind of learning from each other and taking people in, and it's super inspiring. And so we were just talking about that. So let's continue.
Yeah, I think it's really, I see the turn myself, because before it was like, just leave me alone, I want to farm. I don't want to work with other people because I don't want to have any arguments and, disagreements. So I wanted to be by myself. And now it's like, I guess part of it is getting older maybe, and also realizing that a lot more can get done when you work with others, and coming to accept that. But then I'm running into the young people who want to do their own thing, so I understand that. So these farms that I've made, just find the right young people to take over and I'll step back. The main thing I'm concerned is that these farms don't disappear. And if it means that it evolves into one big farm where everybody's working together, I'm open to that. So either way, I just want the farms to succeed and go forth. And I want to get my hands in trying to make this Ulu cooperative work. you know, and so it's fun. It's exciting. It's fun. So just want to let the young people out there know that farming is fun.
Yeah.
Okay, you know, and the freedom and you know the satisfaction of doing something where you're not hurting anybody or anything. You know, it's all about if we hurt the air, the water, the land, the ocean, the streams, we're hurting ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So come join.
Yeah.
I feel like we need to take Ted on tour. Like,
Oh,
hey,
we've
you
done
need
that.
to go to schools.
We did that.
Go far. Oh, so you've already taken him on the tour?
We've done a little bit of a TED tour. I mean, yeah, a couple years back, when the whole local food sort of started, and there were all kinds of panels of like, let's talk about farmers and whatnot. Yeah. We dragged Ted from the North Shore and got him to speak a couple times, which was great.
Well, you know, I think if the problem is that there are not enough farmers, okay, presently what's happening is that 1% of the population of farmers feeding 99% or 2% are feeding 98% or whatever it is. And these farmers have large tracts of land and they're doing it with, they need to use toxic chemicals to do it.
Right. So when you say they need to use, why do you say that? I mean, what's...
because of the insects, the diseases.
Because it's such a
such a
large
large area?
endeavor.
Yes, partly because it's such a large endeavor, and so that's where I'm a little conflicted, because what happened with myself on the North Shore is that I had infestation of whitefly, bean fly, heavy infestation where I lost the crop, the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I'm certified organic, so I didn't even use OMRI-approved pesticide, insecticide. I just let it go. And after that, the new growth on my wing beans, which got infested by whitefly, came back, and the same plant came back, and no whitefly. And it's been, 14, 15 years there, and I do not have a problem with whitefly. I have small outbreaks, and they disappear on themselves. So there are predators out there. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that sometimes you need infestation and total loss to create a predator population.
Oh, so when you're saying predator, not the whitefly, you're saying that there's a predator to the whitefly?
Yes.
Okay.
So, you know, but to ask a farmer to take a loss,
Right.
how many farmers can do that?
Yeah.
So as soon as there's a problem, you spray. But once you start spraying, even if it's OMRI-approved insecticide, you're going to get hooked on a spray program.
Because then you've seen it happen on the other side too, where if you're spraying for a certain pest, then there's been examples of these pests mutating or basically becoming immune to whatever that's, you know, whether it's like a commercial or a conventional spray or an organic spray, it can happen the other way around too, where those pests can become immune.
Yes, that's true. That happens. So I don't know how we got off into that. I'm sorry.
Hey, what were we talking about?
Well, I'm curious about that also. Okay, with coming up with these kind of methods, do you utilize some of the resources we have here, like CTAR? Do you have connections with like researchers that are working on like organic ways to combat pests? Or do you just do trial and error?
Yeah, I'm doing more trial and error, and I'm doing more into what would you call it? Interplanting, always interplanting with different things to see what the
combination or
yeah.
complementary.
I'm into what do you call it?
It's kind of like
Symbiotic?
It's not the word.
Where's Hunter with his permaculture?
Combination. Complementary.
Combi oven? Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, moving on.
Well,
So.
Yeah, so there, you know, for example, just when I plant different things together,
Companion planting.
companion planting and
Eventually you'd get it.
yeah, you see, you know, what insect goes where and which one they prefer. And sometimes they plant different things together, not knowing what I'm going to learn, and then I learn something, and you can use that for future. Yes. So anyway, getting back to.
Keep getting off topic. Sorry.
But yeah. So I think if the problem is that we don't have, one business model is one farmer with 1,000 acres using toxic chemicals to feed the people. And then you have all the side effects of that.
Yep.
You got chemical in the drinking water, you get chemical in the streams, the ocean, the air, the soil.
Yep.
Okay. And it's like, sorry, but that's a necessary evil. That's one business plan, business model. But what if you have a business model where you have 1,000 acres, and instead of one farmer with 1,000 acres, you have 100 farmer with 10 acres. So where are the 100 organic farmers? So that's where I feel like the educational system and the family. The family needs to instill in their children aloha aina. We are connected to our environment. If you hurt the environment, you're hurting us. So aloha aina, if the family teaches that, the school should be reinforcing that, and they should be saying, it's okay to be a farmer. It's fun.
The idea of changing that perception of what it means to be a farmer and what it kind of entails. And I mean, I like what you said about just when you look at it as just another occupation that integrates kind of like conservation and caring about the environment. And that could be then a viable occupation for someone that wants to go in that area, which is cool. I crashed the FFA conference last week and got to meet some students who we might have on next week. But great to, it seems like it is more optimistic than we've been kind of saying about the next generation of farmers, or at least maybe skipping a generation. So I think there's some hope.
Well, I'm happy for that. Yes, definitely. You know, I guess it's because when I was going to school, nobody said, "Why don't you be a farmer?"
Yeah.
You know, and it was always like, "Get away from the farm." You know.
Get away.
Yeah.
That was the same thing for me growing up too. I grew up in southeastern Pennsylvania. It's actually a big mushroom growing area, and it would have been pretty ridiculous probably from my family's perspective if I said I'm going to go become a farmer. So I think that's definitely changing, and I think it's great to see the FFA, Future Farmers of America, which hopefully will be on the show next week. So talking about the next generation of farmers, but also having people like you advising and encouraging and apprenticing. I don't know if that's a word, but I just made it up. I liked it. The next group of farms. So I think that's all the time we have.
I think so. So
Yes.
thank you again so much for coming on and just sharing your perspective and story. It's really great.
Well,
to
thank
put
you
it
for
out there.
having me.
Thanks, Ted.
It was a pleasure.
All right, thank you, and we will see you here again next week and every Thursday on the Hawaii Food and Farmer series.
And you can check us out at Think Tech HI on YouTube, and then also there's a new radio show, the Think Tech Radio Show.
Find it, it's great.
Thank you. Aloha.